Welcome now to this chapter of the tutorial. For this chapter, we go learn wetin cell reference be. Cell reference for Excel they refer to the value of a different cell or cell range on the current worksheet or a different worksheet within the spreadsheet. This one means say cell reference now when another cell carry the value of a different cell or a different range of cells. As we don't already see, we fit use cell reference as variable inside the formula. There are two types of cell references. We have the relative cell references and the absolute cell references. Relative and absolute cell references, then they behave differently. Relative references they change when a formula is copied to another cell, while for absolute references, they remain constant no matter where you copy them. Make we see some examples. So make we see example of simple cell reference. I don't create a new worksheet where we go use do this example. So for instance, if for inside cell A1 we get 5 as the value of this cell, if we want to reference this cell in another cell, we fit come another cell, let's say cell D4, and we fit reference cell A1. If you say this cell D4 is equal to cell A1, so you see say you don't highlight them. So if we press enter, so we don't get the same value as cell A1. So this cell the reference cell A1, this cell D4 the reference cell A1. So an example of simple referencing be this. So if we get something like this, make we input some values. Let's say 8, the same way, if we have this set of values from cell B2 to cell B7, and we want to make another cell reference, let's say the sum of all these values, make we choose cell F4. So if you just say equal to, then make we go insert the function sum. Okay, this one is wrong. Now this one we want to find the sum, so drag it down and then okay. So this cell now they reference the sum of all the values of the cells from B2 to B7. So you see the sum of B2 to B7. So the same way we fit use maybe cell E5 to reference the average of this cell. Make we try them. Average. I no want go the insert function because I just search for them through here. Average of all these numbers. Close my brackets. Enter. So it don't give me the average. So this cell they reference the average of cell B2 through cell B7. So now we will use simple cell referencing with this. Okay, so make we quickly clear this table. Make we quickly look at relative references. You know, say we get two types of references, the relative references and the absolute references. By default, all cell references for Microsoft Excel then be relative references. So when you copy them across multiple cells, they change based on the relative position on row and column. For example, let's say we have 5 and 4. Then here we have 3 and 4. Here we have 3 and 8. Then we have 6, 7. And here we have 10 and 5. So if we make cell C1 reference the sum of cell A1 and B1, make we see wetin we go get is equal to sum A1 and B1, close bracket. So 5 plus 4 is 9. So now our answer be this. Our cell C1, they reference the sum of cell A1 and B1. So if we use the autofill handler, if we drag them down once, you see say it don't automatically add cell A2 and B2 for us. So now wetin we dey call relative referencing be this. By default, all the cell references for Microsoft Excel then be relative references. So if you drag them down self, it don't add all these cells for us automatically. So Microsoft Excel knows say as we don't add cell A1 and B1, the next cell go add cell A2 and B2. So you see sum of A2 and B2, and then the next A3 B3, A4 B4, and A5 B5. So now wetin we dey call relative referencing be this. Relative referencing dey very convenient when you need to repeat the same calculation across multiple rows or columns. So even if you highlight all this one and delete them, if you just double click the autofill handler, you will get the same answer. So even if we get, maybe a lot of data, if we just use the autofill handler, go drag them down, we don't see them in our previous work. So now relative referencing be this. So make we quickly check another example, more detailed example. Make I create a table we will use so we go understand better. Okay, so we don't create our table. So these are the items we them sell on a faithful day in the shop. Make we just do some small editing to the table. Okay. Okay, so this is the price of the product, and then the quantity wey dem sell on the day be this. So we wan find the total amount of the sales made. So wetin we could do, you know, say na the price times the quantity sold. So make we quickly do for here. Let's say is equal to price times asterisk. Remember, say we don't do this one before, and then so price times quantity will give us a total. So if we press enter, so 10 quantity of pizza at 3,500 naira will give us a total of 35,000. So if we won't find the total for the rest of the items also, if we just drag them down, or just double click the autofill handler, you know. So okay, so now as we talked before, our relative referencing don't know, say for this row we choose B2 times C2, which is the price and quantity contained in cell B2 and C2. If you check the next row, Excel don't automatically multiply cell B3 and C3, the next row B4 and C4. So you don't automatically know, and up until cell D11, you see, cell D11 is a product of B11 and C11. So now the example of relative referencing be this. So but sometimes video will be say you no go want a cell reference to change when you fill your cell. Unlike relative references, absolute references no they change when you copy them or when you fill them. And you fit use an absolute reference to keep a row or a column constant. And how we fit designate absolute reference? An absolute reference is designated in a formula by the addition of a $sign before the column and the row. If the $sign come before the column or the row but not both, then that one na mixed reference. So make we see example. Okay, so we don't create another table for our example of absolute referencing. So we still get our item, we get our price, our quantity self day here, but we don't add our tax. So maybe the owner of the company won't calculate the sales tax on each of the items sold before calculating the remaining total. So let's say the tax rate now 5%. So our tax rate now 5%. So we'll use this 5% sales tax rate to tax all the items where we sell for here. So make we quickly do that calculation. Equal to cell I2 times our quantity for inside cell J2, and then times our tax rate times cell N1. But don't forget our basic board mass, you know, bracket of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So make we bracket this one. So we go multiply our price and our quantity, and then multiply by the tax. So let's say, so you see, so now our sales tax be this. So it means say for inside this 35,000 naira we go pay 5% tax, and 5% now 1,750. So if we use the autofill handler, make we drag them down to get the remaining tax on each of the other items. Okay, so 000, so it means say there is a problem with our formula. So make we check our initial formula. Make we go back to the formula. If you look at I2, we are correct here, times J2 and then times N1. Okay, so make we see why this one did wrong. I3, you don't give us relative referencing for this one. I3 times J3 then times N2. Our N2 not get anything. Our N2 be this, not be N1. So you see I'm N2, nothing dey here. This is cell N2. Now why it give us 0? This one self, you multiply by N3, so you multiply by N4, N5 and so on. So they show relative referencing. So now why our answer be 0 for all this? So how we fit correct them? So we go fix this value, make it multiply the product of the price and the quantity. So instead make this one multiply by N2, we no get any value. We go multiply by N1. This one go multiply by, instead of N3, we go multiply by N1. Just like our cell in K2, we multiply N1. So how we fit do that one? We go use absolute referencing. So to use absolute referencing, we go come this, we go select that cell where we want make it dey constant. So in this case, now cell N1. So we go add $sign to the front of our column. So this is N is our column, 1 is our row. So we add $sign to the column and we add another $sign in front of the row. So $N, $1. So if we press OK and then let's use the autofill handler. So now we don't give us the answer where we want. So everything they multiplied by cell N1 because we say we don't fix them with absolute referencing. So you see everything they multiplied by cell N1. Then another thing, instead make we just type $N, $1. We fit use a faster shortcut which is F4 on our keyboard. So we could just copy cell N1 and then press F4. So you go change them to absolute referencing. Now so we fit use absolute referencing to get our desired result. Sometimes fit the way we say you know go want the cell reference to change when you copy them to another cell or a range of cell, or when you use the autofill handler. So unlike relative reference, absolute reference is not a change when you copy them. So if you use an absolute reference to keep a row or a column constant.